Okay, the internet is taking its time. Okay, internet, do whatever you got to do. I don't know why I'm hoarse, but anyway, there we go. We're recording. So we go back to the PowerPoint. So this is chapter one. You have here the uh, first topics: living organisms grow, reproduce, respond. We're finding out more and more animals are very, very responsive and very, very smart. I follow a bunch of people on Instagram who have squirrels for pets. It's unbelievable what they can do. So, no, what anatomists study, what physiologists study. Gross anatomy is what you can see, your skin, the location of your heart, your guts, your lungs. You can take cross sections of an organism or a human and study those. So these are just things for you to read over. Know what cytology is, what histology is. Cell physiology explains the function of cells. Special physiology is, for instance, with your eyes and ears and taste. System physiology is cardiovascular, skeletal, endocrine, hormones, and hopefully everybody's vaccinated because we don't want any pathological physiology. Life starts with chemicals, builds cells, builds tissues, builds organs, organ systems, and then you have an organism. So in this class, we're going to be concerned with uh, skeletal and muscular, nervous, not cardiovascular, integument. And so we start with molecules, go to cells, uh, go to the cellular level and keep going, tissue, organ level to a person. Okay. So make sure we start with atoms and proteins and build muscle, for instance, build cells, take tissue, put it together for an organ, and that leads to an organ system. So in AMP1, we're going to cover integumentary, skeletal, muscular, nervous, and that's it, I think. Yep. Okay. So we keep going. So the integumentary system is the epidermis. We'll study the structure of the epidermis and the dermis. Uh, we'll study the glands in AMP2. The axial skeleton is the center, the skull, the sternum, ribs, vertebrae, and sacrum. The appendicular skeleton is the limbs, lower limbs, upper limbs, and so on. Things like the humerus and the tibia and fibula, so on. Then we'll study the muscular system. There are axial muscles and there are appendicular muscles. Tendons connect uh, muscles to bones. We'll talk about connective tissue. We'll talk about the CNS and the peripheral nervous system. The brain and the spinal cord make up the central nervous system. The peripheral nervous system is made up of everything outside the brain and spinal cord. We'll get to endocrine system in AMP2, cardiovascular AMP2, lymphatic into AMP2, respiratory, so on, so on, so on, so on, so on. Okay, So we're going to cover from skeleton, muscles, nerves, skin. So homeostasis is that your body devotes the energy you get from your food to maintain your temperature, to keep your ionic concentrations the same. You want to have the same amount of ions in your extracellular fluid that has to be made. You need a certain ionic concentration in your intracellular fluid in the cells. It has to maintain blood sugar level. So everybody keep on eating the standard American diet and you'll have diabetes too pretty soon. So I'm really bad at that. I keep trying to go plant-based, and negative feedback mechanisms are involved. So homeostasis is the process, cancel. Okay, the process that uh, we can maintain our temperature, our ionic concentrations, our blood levels, oxygen levels, all that's homeostasis. So we have to have receptors that tell us what our temperature is, tell us what our ionic concentrations are, and an effector that implements balancing. So we want to be around 37 degrees centigrade. So we have heat receptors and then we have muscles and shivering to maintain our temperature. So this is how it works if you think about an air conditioning. So you have the thermometer is the receptor, the control center is the thermostat, then it sends commands to the air conditioner, and a certain temperature can be maintained. So you have to have a receptor, a cell center, and effectors. So negative feedback is a system that negates a disturbance. So if you start to get very, very hot, you'll behaviorally go to get out of the sun, drink some water, sweat, and that's so it will negate the temperature rise. Okay, so if you look at the control center, if body temperature goes up, receptor, brain allows blood vessels and to open close to the skin and sweat. And so you increase blood flow to the skin, increase sweating. So that rise in temper is negated. So that's the exact opposite if your body temperature falls below. Here you have decreased blood to the skin, decreased sweating, shivering, and the temperature is going to be through blood vessels and sweat glands, and the temperature is going to be returned to normal. Okay, so here's a view of that. Make sure you understand receptor, control center, effector. There's always a response to if the temperature rises, it has to be returned to 37.2. If the temperature drops, it has to be returned to 37. So homeostasis is a process that uses a series of what happens to the blood vessels and so on. So if the temperature is dropping, you're going to have decreased blood flow to the skin. That's why when it's cold, your face is not red. Decreased sweating, shivering, and the stimulus is removed. You may put on a coat, you may go inside, but the temperature has to be negated. Okay, we're finished with that. Let's stop there. Go back to okay, we got somebody else wants to come in. Okay, everybody's in now. Okay, we'll stop the recording. Stop recording.